So after a brain injury or a concussion, your learning style might change, and you may find yourself frustrated that you're having difficulty learning or remembering things that you have just read 5 minutes ago. Learning, so we all know that everyone learns different and has a different learning style that best suits them. So you have people who are visual learners, auditory learners, um, people who prefer to learn from reading and writing, and then there's sensory learners. These people are the hands-on people that like to learn hands-on things. So before my brain injury, I could read for hours and hours, and that's how I learned. But then after my concussion, I was so bummed out that only had reading intolerance for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I just forget what I just read. It was annoying, very annoying. So I had to discover how to learn while my brain was healing, and I was happy to find that I could actually listen to books and learn. And before my car accident, I could not listen and learn. I really was that reading, writing kind of person. So I was so glad that audiobooks were available and that they worked for me. So this is something to consider if you are having difficulty learning after a concussion or a mild traumatic brain injury, to discover maybe you have a new style of learning. One of the things is that learning from reading is really complicated because, I mean, you have to think of all the things we take for granted that we utilize when we're trying to learn something. So we're, reading, we're looking at the words. The brain has to process the words. The brain has to put it into your memory. And when you're early in your recovery, that can be, for some, very difficult. So the other thing too is, if you are able to listen to books and learn, you can then later get the textbook and use the textbook to reference, to remind you of the things that you learned when you need to go back and kind of refresh your memory. And I talked to this one stroke survivor, and he said he had really hard time learning after his stroke. But what worked for him was he would listen to the book. He would have the hard copy in his hands, and he would follow the words as he heard them. And this really helped plant that information into his brain. So you might want to try that too, see if it works for you. The other thing is that we're all really lucky right now. There is YouTube. YouTube is a great form to learn from. You've got the audio, you got the visuals, pictures or graphs that a creator is presenting. You can put on closed captions so you can read along with the sound of the video. You can hit pause if you didn't understand something and rewind, or if you have the memory of a gnat like I did and would simply get distracted by a bird outside the window jumping from limb to limb, and then not paying attention to the video or the instructor's lecture. So YouTube is great for learning. The other thing too is, if while you're watching the YouTube video or you're listening, to write notes if you can do that, because writing down what you're trying to learn is another form of kind of solidifying that information into the brain, trying to get it well organized and processed well. And I think that was pretty much it that I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, the other advantage of like books on tape on Audible or YouTube videos is you can also control the speed. So in my previous videos, I talked about the processing speed of the brain being slowed after an injury. And if that is the case, you can slow down the reading of the information, or on the video of your YouTube so that you can understand and comprehend it better. So that's another option. Because once you slow down the process, then your brain has more time to organize the information you're trying to learn and put it in a place where you can retrieve it later too. So that's another helpful thing that you can ascertain from audiobooks or YouTube. And if you're in school, maybe you can ask to record the lecture or videotape the lecture from the professor. And the other thing that was really helpful for me is if you're in a meeting at work and people can get talking really fast and move quickly from one subject to the next. And it can be difficult for a brain injury survivor to follow along and keep up and comprehend. So I have found that the asking for the minutes from the meeting to be taken and then made available after meetings was really helpful too. So that's another thing that you can, think about if that's something you might need to stay on top of stuff at work. And then again, another plug for speech therapists, because they can also help you with your learning, your memory. They can figure out kind of through testing where your gaps are and where your brain needs the support. And the other specialist is a neuropsychologist, because they can do a test called a neuropsychological evaluation. And this is a very thorough test that will identify the gaps in your learning, your memory, and your cognitive functioning. However, it's very long. It's an intensive testing, and some health insurances won't pay for it. It can be expensive if you have to pay out of pocket, but it is also a good tool to kind of figure out what your brain needs when your therapists are trying to put together strategic tools and compensatory tools to help support your brain while you're at work and school. And so so at first, early into your recovery, it's going to be really hard to learn or just even to read. So you be really patient with yourself and just do what you can do. So read as long as you can, or listen to an audiobook as much as you can. We start getting irritable or a headache or something like that. Listen to your brain. That's your brain telling you that you need to take a break and give it a rest. And then the next time, continue on. And over time, what you're going to have to do is find a balance between pushing your brain to grow stronger and do more, but not so hard that you're fall back and regress in your recovery and you're exhausted, terrible headaches or dizziness, forgetfulness, difficulty with your speech. So that line is different for everyone. And at first, it may be difficult to find out where those boundaries and limits are at first, early in your recovery. But as you get to know your brain and your needs, you're going to be able to anticipate when you can push it and when you need to rest. Anyway, I hope this information was helpful. Take care, get better, get stronger.